Well, we're back on 2021 here on the Best Made Weddings podcast. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Gina was recently on the Get to Know Your Wedding Pro podcast. We had a great, wonderful sit-down discussion about her and florals and getting involved in the industry. Gina's here with her friend Rebecca Raymond today, and we're going to talk about I was inspired. We've been doing a lot of these micro weddings, elopements, things lately. Obviously, restrictions fluctuate week to week and month to month, but I think the small weddings, the micro weddings, the elopements for the next, 3, 4, 5, 6 months are going to be, what's allowed and what we're going to be doing. And so with that comes hopefully, reduced guest counts, have more money to be spent on things like, videography, better photography, and especially florals, and really kind of elevating, your ceremony, especially, and really kind of, the bouquet and all that other stuff. So I really wanted to get some florists on early in the year to kind of talk about this and give you guys ideas for, things to do, things to be thinking about, what's on trend. You guys know more about this than I do. So why don't you guys both introduce yourselves, and then we'll kind of start brainstorming some stuff today.
Yeah, awesome. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Well, I'm Rebecca Raymond. I actually live on Vashon Island. So my wedding business started seasonally. The weddings there really are from May to, say, September, October. And it's interesting, the intimate wedding concept now. It was last February, before the COVID hit, that somebody was asking me, said, I'm kind of scaling back on big weddings because I'm moving forward toward floral education. And so I was already kind of going that route with more intimate, more high-end design on a smaller people count scale, so that people would bring me, these amazing, glorious photos that, and their budget just didn't fit in. I'm like, okay, well, pick the thing that's the most important to you. Mm-hmm. Pick the thing. And we're going to put our money into that. Like, if you want to get married in front of this elaborate, gorgeous arch, and that's where the budget goes, and you would like to have, we can do that. And then we can take some of those orchids and put it in your bouquet, and we can make it all cohesive. Pick that thing versus the whole, deal. And so I was working towards trying to make that work for my brides anyway. So for me, sort of using the intimate wedding, whatever you want to call it, the platform of the intimate wedding, that particular concept was not a big jump for me. What has been a struggle, of course, is helping people who had planned on having 150 people at their wedding.
That's hard.
And now it's 20.
Yeah.
So yes, we adjust. Yes, we say, well, we can adapt that, and we can make this glorious event. You can have the most amazing photographer. You can, with that budget that you already had set, it's going to be like much more wow for your dollar because you're concentrating it. Mm-hmm. So we're trying in every way possible to bring the positive to a very difficult situation.
Yeah.
And with empathy and grace, hopefully, there are times when you just have to say, there's only so much you can do.
And Gina, who are you?
Oh, yeah.
we're getting.
We'll go backwards. It's okay.
I know.
Yeah, I'm Gina. I've been on with Reed before, and I really appreciate him reaching out to do this again. We have a lot of perspective on upcoming trends and what's really new and hot this year. I feel like I've always loved elopements because there's so much fun. You get the best pictures and the best videos from these brides that go off to the mountains, to the sea. I just love getting those pictures back. They're just so special. And I think that's what's really nice about this situation is couples can really focus on what's important to them. They don't have to feel the pressure to conform to, oh my gosh, we need to have 500 invitations, and they need to be, whatever's important to you. If the invitations are important to you, spend your money there. But, they really get to prioritize and choose where they're putting their dollars to work for them on their wedding. So I love what's happening. I mean, yes, there is the sadness, but I like to think this has power because people are making more conscious choices. So I'm here for it. I think it's great.
And don't you think, Gina, that what comes out of that is just the experience, the wedding itself, there's a different kind of magic to it.
Yes.
There's just this real soul appreciative connection. Having smaller gatherings, like those are the people that they are the chosen. Mm-hmm. And that intimate gathering, like often I've said, you can have a big table and a big party. It's not as lovely as having an intimate dinner gathering because you really get to connect. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing that not just in the pictures, but in the energy around the experience.
Yeah. When you go to bring the flowers or set up, it just feels like you're part of the chosen family, right? Like you're the one that was picked specifically to do this for that day. So I don't know. I know that it's been tough, but I do think it really cuts out on the bull, like there's a lot of stress around getting married. There's a lot of stress around weddings and, a lot of dollars wasted in places that wouldn't really be necessary.
We one of Dorothy's good friends, right when we started dating, they got married at Bell Harbor, and they had their reception at one of the Tom Douglas restaurants. And I remember, when I got into video, because I wasn't doing wedding videography yet, and when I got into it, and she said, obviously you weren't there, but if I could have hired a videographer, the amount of money I spent on the chairs that the people sat in, that I never looked at, were not in any, photo, nobody remembers, I don't even remember. And she goes, I would do anything to go back. And like you said, cutting out a lot of that, we tried to look at the positive on this podcast and, the benefits of having the small weddings. I've said a lot of times on here that, last summer, the summer before, we would do these 8-10-hour weddings. And by the end, the couples would be totally done. Don't want to do photos. Hey, do you want to go?
They don't even want to talk to people anymore.
No. And we would be like, hey, do you guys want to go do sunset photos? No, we're good. Right. And I mean, it's like crazy to think about because, you're just so burnt out, the family stuff, the planning, all the expectations, the day. And so, now that you can do this great 2-hour, 3-hour, whatever micro wedding, I really like being able to, like you said, pick the things that you care about and pick the things that you want to spend the money on. And it could be flowers, it could be invitations, it could be, desserts, it could be whatever, but really spending that time and money on that, I think is so important.
Yeah. I think it takes a lot of stress out and makes people enjoy the day a little bit more, like it's meant to be a day you enjoy. And I've always said that, but a lot of couples just like the unnecessary amount of stress you're putting on yourself to perform. And the amount of stress you put on things that aren't gonna exactly go as you planned.
The controllables and non-controllables. And some of those you don't even know what they're going to be until the day of, and put all the energy into something, and then it does, the stress that happens from that because they're thinking it all has to go a certain way.
The expectation level is very, I feel like it's just a little more relaxed.
It is. And also people are just, there is this thing where there were so many choices and so much access and so much, I guess I should, because that's what everyone is doing. Mm-hmm. And it really brought it all down.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, good. Almost, I did have somebody say, I was actually kind of glad that I don't have to worry about my people flying in and making sure they're tended to and doing all the things I need to. It's like that was taken away off their plate. And in a way, although they'll miss them there, it made everything easier. So, there are a lot of gifts in it. And I do hope that people go forward thinking, I'm creating this beautiful space to, move into another part of my life, their life, and they're sharing it with their, closest people, and they have the rest of their lives together to
throw a big
party. And that is a whole different energy. Mm-hmm. So in a way, I'm almost hoping it's going to shift the trend.
I think it's time.
We can have these beautiful, intimate weddings that are romantic and magical, and then, have the, the release from COVID summer gathering, and it's loose and barefoot and, easy, and it's a barbecue. So there's a lot of options that can happen. We're not going to be in this situation forever. It is going to change. We are going to see the lift of COVID eventually. But I do think that the gifts that we have learned from this experience will definitely make a difference in the future, especially when you have couples who are having a hard time choosing because there's too much to choose from. We can say, no, we've done it. We know now. We've done this. Everyone has done it, and we know how special it can be to scale back.
Yeah, I'm having a real fizzle. I don't know what the kind of word is, but a dilemma in my head. We're talking about the weddings and everything, and is it going to be more focused on these elopements moving forward? And I just got my email that the Seattle Wedding Show, they postponed this year. They're doing it next year. And I got my email to do my placement, and I'm having a very, I don't know if, and we'll see. I think as we get into the summer, but I don't know if our world, and booking these large scale weddings looks like it is going to, whether it takes a year or 2 years, or if it ever comes back, I don't know, right? And the idea of going back and doing this convention and trying to book these big weddings, where I don't think, for the most part, people that are traditionally booking elopements and micro weddings are going to conventions, right? They are looking, Pinterest and things, and searching it out more curated that way. So anyway, I mean, this is, it's a discussion for a whole nother time, but it's a weird juncture where we're at right now, and kind of what it's going to look like.
For me, I've done the Seattle Wedding Show, and honestly, it wasn't my cup of tea. To see the starstruck, stressed out new bride walking up to you like this, with her eyes bugging out of her head, just with the sheer overwhelm of every booth, every piece of paper she's gathered. To me, it was just not my place in the wedding industry. I didn't care for it. I really like what's happening now. I'm all about making it special, all about the connection and the special pieces. So, I don't know. That wasn't my cup of tea. So I'm okay with it.
I like the word curated. I think that is that kind of covers the umbrella of the wedding, the choices that people are making. Mm-hmm. It's more of a curated, specific, it's just more to their heart. They're not going to have to compromise on dollars that maybe they would have. My husband always says to my girls, and I've been in the industry for 27 years, and I have 2 girls, and my husband's like, please elope. I will pay you.
I will pay you to elope.
Will pay you to elope, and you can put a down payment on a house. Yeah. So we're shifting our thinking, and now we're seeing that happen. So, but yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think some areas of the country, the big stuff will come back because that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Like the South, big weddings.
The South and the East, they always had the big events.
That's tradition. So they may grab onto that as soon as they can. Actually, it's already happening. So, but we're different. It's different in different areas of the country, which is something that's important to keep remembering.
Mm-hmm.
So and Gina and I talked about this because she was on about a month ago or so. I'm trying to remember with the holidays and stuff.
Yeah, I know. It's a blur.
So for brides and grooms, people planning now, looking at florists, trying to figure that out, knowing, right, it's just going to be a ceremony now, right. And that's going to be the main focus. What have the conversations you guys have been having with, your clients? What are those looking like? Are people, sending new inquiries? What are those sounding like? What are people wanting to know, or what are you guys talking with them about?
Yeah. So on top of the fact that we're making things a little more curated, ceremonies, any sort of special ties you have to any style. The style is huge for the weddings. I think not only style, but we're moving into a very like eco-conscious, eco-friendly mentality. And a lot of us in the floral industry are really getting on that train because weddings and events are wasteful and there are better ways to do things nowadays. So leaning towards that, any way you can reuse pieces of your ceremony to either like have your guests go home with an arrangement, or making sure the products that you're using are going to biodegrade and compost. There's just so many things that you can do on top of making a curated vision, but also being very conscious about your decisions. So, yeah, I mean, like lots of different kinds of archways, shapes. I think we're trending with dried floral, like lots of dried floral right now. Which is great. I mean, I love using dried floral.
And the mix super nice. Even, or even blending plants.
Oh yeah, plants.
I do that a lot, like blending potted plants, live plants with your florals. And so those products are not going to be tossed in the garbage. They can be gifted to your guests. And then there's a little keepsake, or they could, plant them in their first home, trying to incorporate things that are going to be carried with you or continue on.
Yeah, we're actually planning a shoot. So this is where we brainstormed this last night. So we're going to do something together that incorporates all of that. And we'll definitely share it with you guys because it's going to be pretty cool. So keep an eye out for that after Valentine's Day.
That's perfect. Yeah, because I think the idea is maybe the fear is sometimes, if I'm planning the wedding, there's only going to be, 10 or 12 people, right? It's going to be us up there. We can't have, maybe the full bridal parties that we wanted, right? We can't have, 87 people standing up there, whatever. Like it seemed like it was getting right where you would have, all these people. Our friends got married years ago, and I was filming the wedding. I think they had like 22 people come down the aisle, and I'm like, what? I know in like Texas, I'm sure, and whatever, but like in Seattle, I was like, that's a lot of people coming down the aisle. But I think the fear is my ceremony is going to feel small or empty or like, we see these things now and there's chairs spaced out and there's all this, dead space, right? Weird space, weird. And so I think, is that fair that people are thinking about it and that potentially that you could use florals, right? To really build that out and talk about some of those ideas. Cause I know that that's a fear or a self-consciousness that people have.
Yeah. I mean, there are ways to fill that space, and filling it with design elements is perfect. Maybe, you're not spending the money on like those 22 table centerpieces. So why not put those dollars to work on getting something really special? You could, we could do something like bring live elements in, maybe build some trees, just any sort of like building stuff, backdrops, really cool pieces, art pieces almost. You can do so much.
Constructing some floral art for the event itself. And as far as it does, of course, depend on the location. And so, on the other hand, like on the island, a lot of the weddings are outdoor and, so there's the big tents, and like all of a sudden we're having, we're taking all that in, and these beautiful buildings, like, okay, we're going to have you wouldn't be able to host a wedding in that smaller space.
Right.
But because the weddings are smaller and there's less people, some of those things are becoming possible. And the tenting is not this huge, vast tent where people get lost in it. It's all smaller. But as far as the ceremony itself, like I'm just actually working with a bride now for her spring wedding, and we are concentrating on, she went from 150 to 20. And we are making this awesome aisle runner.
Yeah. Ooh, that'll be
so fun. Instead of doing like a marker and a marker and a marker, which is standard for a big wedding, we are like creating this work of art as an aisle runner. So that, and then the archway, which she, has some specific ideas. So even though those chairs are spaced out you're creating a stage of intimacy and the wow factor and The photography is better that way because you don't have to scope it out.
Yeah.
Everything is more cohesive because it's all right there. And that's where that magic comes from. I mean, that's how you make that magic. And then they get the wow factor and it feels really special because nobody's done that yet. You know, it's been spread it out as much as we can so that everybody gets a little something. And now we have a smaller group, so everybody gets something fabulous.
Yeah.
So those are options that we see happening.
Yeah, it just seems like we need to kind of embrace this as opposed to,
Absolutely.
and online and at weddings I've been at, and I just see all these weird how they're configuring everything and trying to do it. And we did one where they had like some antique, couches and things that were spread out just to make it feel. I just think as opposed to like, well, this is what we weren't supposed to have. We were supposed to have 100 chairs in this thing. Well, we're just going to pull out 48 of them or whatever, and then still do it. But really coming up with ideas across the board to just make it look and feel. This is what we planned, not, well, this is kind of like our backup for what we couldn't do.
There was a really fun one that I saw. I thought it was so cool where they had, it wasn't like you walked down an aisle situation. It was like, I don't know how the couple would actually like get to the, the backdrop and the ceremony part. Like, it's not 100% clear in my mind, but there would be a gorgeous backdrop, right? Whatever kind of archway with floral and everything, but the guests would be seated at small, little, intimate, like cocktail tables, but seated bistro tables, where they can.
Like you're at a jazz show.
Like you're at a jazz show. Like
and you can have your specialty cocktail.
Yeah, and you just get to sit and watch them get married. Like I thought it was so cool. Like
it's very clever.
Very clever. They can have something nice and intimate, like a little, a small little centerpiece, like small, but I thought it was really cool. I thought, what a great idea, maybe put two people that are from the same household at one little bistro table. And then, you could even go
that's
like
genius.
Straight up Parisian theme with that. Like, how cool would that be? Like,
that's a super, super great idea. I love it.
Yeah, because it's just, I think, and this has been, my cross on here and everyone's for, months is like, we need to really be embracing what is happening now. And it just seemed for the longest time, it's like, well, okay, so I can have, up to this and up to this and up to this, as opposed to just, and I've done episodes before where we've talked with, other couples that have planned and they've said, once we just embraced it and cut the list and just said, this is what we're doing, not only did the stress go away, but then like you guys have said, we can really focus on, what we care about, what we want to see. And so that's always been my advice is just not to focus on what you can't have, but really emphasize what you can have. What are, and this could be obviously even before everything going on now, but questions, things people should be thinking about when, asking about florals, when they're trying to build everything. I mean, I can't even remember how the dummy questions we asked, when I was getting married and had no idea what was going on. So, what are the questions they should be asking? Are those things changing now because of everything going on?
Not really. I feel like the questions are still very standard questions. We do get a lot more of like, hey, would this be a possibility? Like, could you make something like that? And that's fun because people are realizing that they can do those kind of things because they're not paying for the other stuff, right? So they can spend the money on that really, really cool Pinterest backdrop they saw. So I'm getting a lot of that, like, would you be able to do that? And I'm all for it. Sure. Let's do it. So that's always fun. Where to start. Like I always recommend starting with a color or a style that really resonates with you. And then, going forward from there, because, once you start picking and choosing each little flower that you want, Mother Nature just will throw your plants right out the side window. Because
one of those non-controllables.
Right, the non-controllables. And we've had such a hard time even getting I don't often, but like when stuff has to get shipped in from other parts of the country or even out of the country, it's just been so hit and miss. And with live product, that's a really, that's an issue. Sitting in a box for 2 days in some warehouse, it'll be dead by the time you get it. So, a lot of people are leaning towards moving to local flowers. I've had a lot of couples ask about that. And I'm a full supporter of our little slow flowers movement, which is we try to buy American grown. We try to buy as local as possible. And I've actually, to cut costs, I'm kind of thinking about growing a little bit more stuff this year as well. Not that it cut costs, but it gives me the control of that variable about like stuff not being available. It just gives you more choices. So.
And I would agree with everything that Gina said. And to that same point, I have also, because I live on the island in a rural area, I do have a garden. And for years, gardening is how I got into floristry, actually. The one came before the other. But one of the things that people can start thinking about is I love incorporating live plants into designs. I just think it gives you that surprise, like a pansy in the middle of a bouquet is not a pansy, but that beautiful, delicate cluster of that. The way I usually try to work is this is the standard. And what else can I put in there that's going to be, now what is that? Because that's what I want to bring, that surprise and delight. And so one of the things, if people want to be thinking about what can I do, is how can I incorporate plants? How can I, utilize that? Ask your designer, would you use live plants? Can we do this? Do you know how to do, how could we make this so that, it can be more eco-friendly? Like, start thinking about not just what color, what flower, what shape, but take away that. What is the overall concepts that are not commonly used beforehand that we could incorporate into our wedding to make it really special? And the other thing that I would say, and I do this as well with my clients anyway, is get out of your head what flower you want.
Yeah.
Shake that loose, right?
Yeah.
Because designers who know their stuff know how to create the look you want. So the flower is not the situation. It's the overall aesthetic and the mood you're trying to create. Now, we can do that with a variety of options. So if you know how to design, you know how to make that work for them. And so I don't know that people are aware of that.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one for them to grasp.
Yeah.
They see the Pinterest picture
and
they're like,
they think
it has to have
that.
It has to have 4 peonies right here.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. Like, you could take those out and use something else. I really liken us to chefs. Yes. I don't know if that makes sense.
Good.
But
we're creating a recipe, literally. And we adapt.
We do. We have to create recipes for it. But everybody has a different way to make their mom's meatloaf, right? So one designer is going to add onions, one hates onions and isn't going to use them. So it's all different, but to get the same result.
I would say one more thing that I would ask the brides or the couples to think about is really get in touch with what is your priority. I often have brides who say, I just want my bouquet to be the most glorious, beautiful thing. And I'll say, but I don't have a very big budget. I said, you're going to get that.
Yeah.
You're going to get that bouquet. And even if your bridesmaids only carry something very small and simple and your centerpieces are simple, that thing, pick the thing.
Yeah, that's a good advice.
And do 1, 2, 3. If I could have anything I want, if I only could have 3 things, what is my number 1?
Yeah.
What is my number 2, and what is my compromise? And coming from that viewpoint, it really sets a boundary.
It does.
You're setting yourself a boundary. And I have this saying with my kids, boundaries set you free. Because it really helps you be close to what it is you truly want. Because they do get all this other input.
Yeah.
But if they're coming to me and it's like, okay, let's talk about what you really want just for you.
And it can be different for every person.
Right.
I mean,
I have a bride, I just want this gorgeous photograph.
Yeah.
I want the arbor. I want that picture. I want the sunset. That is the money for me. That's what I want. And the rest, I just want a party.
Yeah.
You know, so everybody, like you said, is different, but that is a really good way to approach your wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some people, it's the music, you know.
Well, and that's, you know, I talk about, I probably don't talk about this on the podcast. I talk about this a lot, you know, to the couples that I consult with. You know, we have a pre-wedding questionnaire, right, that we send out like before the weddings. And one of the things we have them go through is a shot list, right? Like you guys talk about, you know, listing these things, what are most important. And the story I always share is the first time I ever did this, you know, because it goes through the day and, you know, details, getting ready, you know, family photos, you know, everything you can think of for a wedding. And it has, you know, like cocktail hour, guest dancing, couple dancing, all this stuff. And when the first couple, Danica and Phil, filled it out, and I get it back, and it's like, you know, cocktail photos, 10, guest mingling, 10, right? And I'm like, but then like portraits, 1, right? And I go, okay, well, maybe I had this wrong, or they whatever. And I talked to them about it. I go, hey, so you guys, you know, ranked all your couples photos really low, but you guys really want, it seems like you guys really want a lot of like cocktail hour and stuff. And they go, yeah, because, you know, we've gone to law school all over the country. We have I mean, this was back a couple years ago, you know, we have 250 people coming in. We haven't seen all these people in, you know, 10 years. You know, we don't care about us. We get photos of us all the time, right? But we want to remember all this stuff, right? And I go, if I hadn't have asked you that, right, and we hadn't gone through this process, I would not have known that at all,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and like you guys said, you know, figuring, and it's different for everybody. And so that's my point, to get back to your original, you know, what you were talking about is, you know, those 3 things for you are different than the people for the other. And so, you know, who am I as a videographer to know that, you know, the shot of your wedding shoes is the most important thing in the world, right? Or, you know, your grandmother made this cake and you really want shots of all that stuff or whatever. So I think Zoom was catching up there. But anyway, it's just interesting. So yeah, anyway, I think that's a wonderful point, to pick those things and go through that way. Gina, we had talked about spending, being able to spend more money, you know, eco-friendly. That's kind of a trend right now. Is that, with people maybe having the potential of having more money in the budget for, you know, florals and things like that? Is it like, this might be a dumb question, but is that like buying like organic fruit at the store? Like it's the better thing to do, but it's a little more expensive.
Yeah, it can be. It's not necessarily more expensive to buy local flowers. And that's what I would equate organic food to, is our local market flowers. You know, when I say local market, I mean the growers that are from, you know, northern Washington, right in our backyard. We have so many really great growers all over Washington. But to the point, yes, it is similar. I mean, we can totally do locally grown, fully in season. You're going to get the most bang for your buck with locally grown product. But as far as like the alternate side that the couple doesn't see is the mechanics. What you're using to create these designs it's important as well. And it, you know, it has an impact. It is, it's labor intensive
to make it that way,
to make it more eco-friendly. But hopefully, you know, once the floral industry gets on this train and catches up with the rest of humanity, you know, maybe we'll have some really easy to use products. But right now, you know, we have this thing called like the floral diaper. It's all compostable products. So you would basically make a bouquet, wrap those stems in like a little diaper, and it goes in a compostable bag, and you could attach that to the archway. But there's a few other products that we've been, Rebecca is more experimenting with than I haven't received my box of it yet, but there's like a wool-based floral foam, because a lot of florists right now are trying to get away from using floral foam. And I get a lot of brides that ask, like, do you use floral foam? And I'm like, well, it depends on what you want to do, because in some instances it is necessary. But in others, I mean, if a bride wants to be fully like no foam, eco-friendly, you know, we
can make it work.
Right. It's figure outable.
We can make it work. But there is a little bit more labor involved to make it, you know, to make it work. So
yeah,
the time, we're engineers.
Yeah, we are.
We literally are engineering things, like, and we'll look at someone like, oh, right, well, let's brainstorm how would we make this work? because we're definitely can-do girls.
Yeah.
We're like, do the research. What can we use that is biodegradable, the least impact on the environment, and will, like with the reuse and reduce and use eco-friendly whenever possible. What is the time and labor to dismantle to be able to do that?
Yeah.
Because this can be recyclable, but it doesn't matter if you don't recycle it. So we always try to do the whole picture in mind.
Yeah.
So your comparison to organic food is actually spot on.
Yeah, I agree.
It's really, actually, I like that. I'm going to use that.
It's very good.
I don't know why we didn't think of that before.
What's it been like? Obviously, we're in a more unique situation than, DJs and stuff. There's been some more regulations with things where, right, like I can still film, a wedding, it's smaller, right? Ceremony, you guys, right, being able to, improvise, do these micro weddings, mountain elopements, the rest of it. What's it been like for you guys, navigating through that and lessons learned, advice that you have for couples or other vendors? I mean, I know there's a ton of different ways you can take that, but we're in a more unique situation than some people where there's always something for me to film, even if it's 1 hour or 10 hours. There's always a need, right, for, some sort of centerpiece, a bouquet, obviously not to the scale maybe that we're used to, but what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard. Like, I feel like you're using the flowers to create more of a mood. And it's strange because I feel like we're the last to find out about the party, like we come and we set up, but we don't really know, like, are we doing this outside today? Are we inside? Like, the last wedding I did, I was like, we were waiting on the rain. We were like, is it going to rain? Is it not going to rain? Go ahead and set it up. So, we just kind of go with the flow. It's tough, but you got to make do with what you can.
And I would, to answer your question, I think this was a question about what would we suggest couples to keep in mind as going forward. I would suggest go in with an open mind.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing.
From a day of, we're kind of going away from this is my list, this is my rule, this is what I want, and it's got to be just so, and da 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 da. It's more like, okay, we're gonna make this work. Let's see. And so often when you let go of that rigid thinking, you get something so much better.
Yeah, that's very true.
So much better. So go forward, proceed forward. Like, number one, figure out what's your top three and proceed with an open mind.
Yeah.
And say what can be done. Because, we know, well, I always think we can do just about anything. We have the wherewithal and the time and the, we literally are engineers.
Yeah.
But I also just want to make another point that a lot of couples do not recognize that there are different scopes to floral design. And it's okay to try, you want to have that relationship. You want to have that right fit.
Oh, yeah.
There are brides who say, and I even have it on my questionnaire, it's like from 1 to 10, similar kind of thing. It's like, where do you fit in? It's like, I know exactly what I want, and that is exactly what I want. Or I trust you, do your thing as long as it's within the range. That's my ideal customer.
Absolutely.
Because then you're going to be able to give them exactly, something that they're going to love. But so if they come to it with an open mind, there's more that we can give.
Absolutely. You're going to get
so much more
when you say
having it, I have to have it this way, because that is, one person's mile is another person's marathon. So yeah, I would say open mind is a really big deal.
Yeah, and that was the point I was going to make before too, was when you were talking about it's more like a chef, right? That you see, you see this look, and it's for anything, for photography, video, florals, anything, you need to trust, the experts, right? Like you guys said, it doesn't necessarily matter, what is that 2 flowers out of the 3 or whatever to get, you're looking for that mood. And that's the same way, with us, I have these clients and obviously it's a case by case, and we have plenty of them where I've shoot a bunch of stuff and we go through. Yeah, they pick the things that they want for whatever. But when you get I get some of these couples and corporate clients sometimes where you get too in the weeds. They get too in the weeds, and you're like, well, from this to this, and we need to move it here, and we need to do this and this and this and this and this, and I'll be like, well, but and this could be for like corporate stuff. Well, we need to do a 60-second thing or whatever for Instagram. So now it's a minute 37, right? Or like we've totally lost even like the train of, or, you wanted a 5-minute thing and now, like you get too in the weeds, and it's weird. And like, I'll talk with Dorothy, my wife, about that a lot. She'll be like, oh, how's it going? I go like, they've gotten too in the weeds now with this. Like they're too into it. And it can be the same with florals. Like you just get too into, and believe me, I understand the need for control and wanting to have things and having the vision. But at some point, like you said, it's the chef, and you just can't get, because then you really do get lost in it. And I've had some where they've got lost, and then it's like they're totally off the cliff, and they never come back, right? They never like, it's a weird, you get what I'm saying? Like you almost lose yourself kind of in that. It's weird.
Yeah, it definitely shoots you in the foot. That's for sure.
We talked about, the eco thing. I know Gina and I talked on the podcast about maybe large bouquets being out. What are some other design elements, things that you see more in trend now, more in vogue, that you guys are being asked more to do?
Yeah, we did talk a lot about trends. I am seeing a lot more people leaning towards, different shapes. Like, it's still in that genre of very open and loose bouquet, but it's maybe got a cascade this direction, or like maybe it splays a little bit and it's shaped differently. I still think that we're kind of trending towards not huge bouquets anymore. And that kind of fits along with the people being a little more eco-conscious and curating their bouquet to make a meaning out of it. Like, I had a bride a while ago, she wanted snowdrops in her bouquet, and those were very special and sentimental to her. And, I was like, Emily wants snowdrops, she gets snowdrops. So, just finding something that has a little bit more sentiment. It encompasses everything. Like the whole ceremony is going to be a little bit more sentimental. You can do more with it, but all the way down to like the boutonnière, the ribbons, like the pin on, like maybe you have your grandma's heirloom that she can't be there, so you can incorporate maybe her brooch or her wedding rings. And I get a lot of brides who want that, and it's very easy to do. Like if you have something sentimental you need put into a bouquet, we can do that.
And I think that it's the same thing, that the bouquets are slowly, with the curated wedding package, becoming more artisan.
Yeah.
Which means we are putting a little more style into it, a little more. It's not just I never just throw together a hand tie, but it's not just a simple hand tie.
Right. It
is like, it's artful. It may be, as you said, a specific flower that's concentrated in an area, or, yes, we're going to do if your grandma loved the pansies, then we're going to find a way to make that work. Violets, same kind of deal.
Well, even just different textures and elements that you wouldn't see.
Right.
Like maybe you can put some really pretty yarn, like woven in your bouquet. Other textures and elements have always been really, really huge in other, like, in the European market. But I think we're starting to see a little bit more of that trickle, and florists are actually having to start learning their trade and figuring out how to do more than just a basic hand tie, which I'm all for. Like, I think that's an amazing achievement to be able to make something that's considered art. Instead of just a book I made a bouquet of flowers.
And the side note to an artisan, say, bridal bouquet. And Gina and I are both European trained, so we both have our European masters. So the beautiful thing about something like that for a bridal bouquet is when the flowers are gone, you really do have a keepsake.
Yeah.
You have the form and all the elements, and you could conceivably every year on your anniversary, and I do tell people this, you keep that form, you could put that in a vase and it's set up so that you could put flowers into it and say, hey, no, is it going to look like what we did? Probably not, but that's it's going to be something that you take on with you if you choose to. So that's just another way to make it special. Mm-hmm. It's another option. And I do see things becoming a little more curated and artisan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's, and it goes back to, the ceremonies and the bouquets, all that stuff where, and believe me, I deal with it with video all the time where, it's not needed or we're not going to watch it. And with florals, right? Like, well, that's going to go away or it's going to die or it's not going to, like, who's you spend, and I say that about food all the time. I mean, you spend the money on this food and people, but having good, floral stuff, especially that is in, every photo of everything of any kind, right? No matter what it is, no matter if it's, if it's your portraits, if it's the ceremony, if it's the reception, if it's the groomsmen stuff, if it's right, but it's in every single thing. And so it's just interesting to me, and obviously we talk about, prioritizing your things, but if that is something that you care about, know that that is like this overarching thing in every aspect of your day. It's going to be in every photo you look at in one way or another, the decisions you make, right? And the money you spend or don't spend and the energy that is spent or not spent. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually have had brides that didn't come to that realization until I told them. Not just brides, couples who don't think about that concept. And it's a very important concept. And it's like seeing a light bulb, or the emoji exploding head emoji, like, you're right. Like, that is literally going to be in every photo that I have for the rest of my life. I will be showing my grandchildren or, hanging these pictures on the wall. Like, I want a good looking bouquet or boutonnière, or, I've some gorgeous flowers in your hair. Like, you want that memory. Like,
I so agree. And you guys both said it exactly true. And one of the things that I do when I'm showing with my brides, I say, I actually design for the photo.
Yeah.
I design for the photo. Like, my kids think like it drives me them crazy to get a picture for the family. Cause I'm like, oh no, go to the left because there's this, like, you're going to have this stick coming out of your head. That's the lamp behind you, right? A little here, like, I'm designing for the photo. I'm looking at the overall experience. And when I'm trying to explain that to the bride, sometimes I'll say, okay, show me a picture of a dress. A beautiful picture of a dress. And we look at this beautiful picture of a wedding dress. I said, now, that's beautiful. Now you put flowers with it. Overlay that picture with a bouquet. Do you see the difference? And this was in the day when we didn't have Pinterest and internet, because I'm old. So I didn't. But it's the same thing now electronically. I literally did it with paper so they could see. This is beautiful. But once you put that bouquet on top of there, I mean, I literally would cut them out of magazines and set it on top of there so they could go.
Paper doll style.
Yeah, I did, because that's what I'm telling you, I'm old. And they would have that visual impact. It was so powerful. And that is how they were able to go, oh, right. And then, the same thing with the music. Essentially, like, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, you have this party and it's beautiful and you're sipping tea and champagne and everybody has experienced this. Okay, what does it feel like? Well, it feels like this. And then you turn on this music. Now, what does it feel like? It's that it's just another thing. As professionals, it is our responsibility to guide them so that they can get that thought in their head. And a lot of people don't do that.
No,
it's not. You see, they're not taught, or it's not a skill, or it's not natural for them. But I think it's really important. And I think when you're working with clients like that, they get it and they get you. And then you have that connection and you know that you have that trust.
It's so important to get that visualization too. So.
Yeah, we have and not to, not that you want to like overthink and freak out about everything in every photo, but it is something to think about. We had an elopement earlier this year, a small wedding, and really, pretty. He was great looking. She's great. Had the hair going. Had this, was like this tight dress. Like, was just looking gorgeous. Right. She's getting ready, and I could see her. and she like pulls out this like tiara kind of thing out of nowhere, right? And it's one of those, I mean, that, it's great. It's a look, it's whatever. It was one of those, like, maybe if it had been 15% more expensive, right, it would have looked, 80% more better, right, kind of thing. And you could see, and she was kind of like, oh, I don't like it. She put it on and put it off and put it on and put it off. And I'm just sitting there in my head screaming, like, do not put this on, right? Do not, because I know, right, this is going to be in every single photo. It's going to change the look of every photo, right? It's going to change the vibe of your dress. And I'm a guy, like, I don't even know all the intricacies of all this, right? But
you caught it though, right there. You caught it. You saw her doing this.
Yeah,
that uncertainty right there.
Yeah,
the fact that she's uncertain she should wear it, she's going to be uncomfortable all day long, and that's going to affect her pictures too.
And so she's kind of looking at it, and she's like, and I mean, and she, we had done a lot of our stuff. I mean, it wasn't like she knew me really well, but I was just like, I said, why don't you, like, let me just like put it in my pocket, right? Let me just put it in my pocket. Like, we'll go out and start doing photos. And like, they went, did the first look, and I left that. I mean, man, we never went back to it. I mean, but it goes with all this, where it's these decisions you make, and like I said, not to stress about it, but it's the same with the flowers, right? If you have a cheap looking boutonniere or whatever, it's going to be in everything for the rest of, for your life, right? I mean, printed on your wall, like you said, whether you're showing your grandkids or not, it'll be printed somewhere. It'll be on your everything. Yeah. You need to think about that stuff.
You also have to think about, I mean, not only a cheap looking bouquet or boutonniere, but like, what if you are a smaller person?
Yes.
And you want that giant ass bouquet. Sorry, I don't know if you can say
it. You can say ass. That's okay.
I swear a lot. Anyways, but like, you don't want to look like you're holding a tree. Like, come on. You need to make sure you're trusting the florist with the proportions that you need. Taller people can pull off a very long cascade bouquet. A 5-foot person, probably not the best choice. And we're here to help with that as well. Like,
that's the reason we ask, what does the dress look like?
Yeah, it's a very important key.
Or I mean, even we're trying to tie it into their body type. And
if we're going like,
are they going to have a long train?
Even for the boutonnieres, like if you're not having a bouquet, like what if your boutonniere doesn't match your suit? Or like, what if you have the same, you don't want it to fade in? I mean, I treat the boutonniere as just important as the bouquet. Right. So I like to incorporate them and make them special as well. But yeah, you really need to trust that your professional understands what you're wearing, the overall overarching theme, and it's important. It really is, because that shows up too.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Gina. And that's like, even when we're talking about a trend of moving towards artisanal bouquets, we're not leaving the guys out.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about a cohesive package. And so whatever, like when we're designing stuff, like usually the bridal bouquet comes first. And then how can we create an artisanal boutonniere so that picture matches? So if this bouquet has these flowers in it, and then you just do like just a basic standard
rose
boutonniere,
a weird
rose, like
rose boutonniere,
we would not design that way. We would we're always looking at the overall picture. What is that going to look like? So
my favorite boutonnieres are the ones that are left in the hotel room, and then we get halfway through portraits, and then we have to go back and redo a bunch of stuff. That's always my favorite. This one we forgot to do it, and then we're like, oh, we got to redo all the guys now because we forgot it. That's always my favorite. It just lightens my day to have to go back and redo it.
Well, to that, like if you're doing a drop off and you're not putting it to get, if you're doing a drop off and you're not there to execute the event.
That's why I usually like to put
and then you get the box and it's like, oh my gosh, these people didn't get them. Like, what they're just left in the box. I'm like, oh, that kills me because
it hurts us too, Reed.
Yeah.
It hurts us too.
I get it.
I feel your pain. You know what else bothers me is when Susan leaves her bridesmaid bouquet on a chair. That one makes me mad.
Because it's
Susan,
sitting there dying.
Karen, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
She's on a chair and it's dead in an hour.
This has been fun. This has been good. I'm glad that Gina, that we could connect again, and Rebecca, I'm glad that we could get you on and as well to share some insights. We'll have to get you on to get to know your wedding pro here as part of your Q1 content planning schedule.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been really fun. Nice to meet you as well.
If people want to learn more about both of you guys, your styles, everything, please plug away anywhere where you would have them check out to kind of see all the different stuff you guys are working on.
Sure. So I'm from thegroundupfloral.com. If you're listening to this and you're a florist who's looking for more floral education, I have a other website, from thegroundupfloral.media. I have classes and courses. And Rebecca,
I'm Rebecca Raymond Floral.com, and it's Rebecca Raymond Floral, or at Rebecca Raymond Floral on Pinterest, or excuse me, on Instagram. And I also do a little short at this point. It's called Tuesday at 10, and it's an Instagram live where it's basically behind the scenes in my studio and my design process and what I share. It's not scripted. It's real. As my daughter says, Mom, it's the stuff behind the curtain. That's what people want to know. I go, they want to see my mess. Okay, come on in.
That's good. Well, great. Hopefully we'll, this will be one of many conversations here for the next year, trying to figure out this content schedule with everything going on. But I really appreciate it, giving some ideas for couples, planning, trying to figure out how to elevate these smaller weddings. And that's really, like I said before, that's what we're all about right now, is making the best out of it, elevating what we can, and really, making all that stuff be great. So thank you guys again. This has been another episode of Best Made Weddings, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.